They say beauty is a blessing, that it opens doors, softens hearts, grants favor in rooms where words fail. But what they never tell you, what history buries beneath the perfume of poetry and the gloss of art, is that beauty, in the wrong time, in the wrong skin, was a curse so precise it could slit your life in half. You don't remember the moment you became dangerous to yourself. Maybe it was the day the village women started touching your cheek and whispering things to your mother. Maybe it was when the boys stopped playing with you and started staring. Or maybe it was simply the way your father's expression hardened whenever you entered the room, like he could see something in your reflection that he didn't know how to fight. You were 12 or 13. Years mean little when you are born poor, your age marked more by harvests than by calendars. You had never seen a mirror, not a real one. Your image came from puddles, from polished copper plates, from the wide eyes of strangers who stared too long. And one morning, the horses came. They didn't arrive like invaders. They didn't need to. No swords were drawn, no fires lit. The village froze all the same. These were not raiders, these were buyers. They dismounted slowly, men dressed in colors too rich for dirt roads, speaking a dialect you didn't fully understand but instinctively feared. They carried scrolls, not weapons. Scales, not chains. Their blades were their eyes, sharp, measuring, precise. And when one of them looked at you, really looked, something inside you recoiled, not from fear, from knowledge. Because in that moment, you understood what animals feel at market. The moment the butcher passes over others and lays his hand on your spine. The moment you are no longer alive in your own story, but claimed in someone else's. Your mother begged. Your father didn't speak. The man in silk cupped your chin like he was appraising marble. He asked you to smile. You obeyed. He made a note. That was it. No ceremony, no farewells, just the soft creak of leather as a pouch of coins changed hands, and the world you knew cracked like cheap porcelain. You weren't kidnapped. That would have been easier. You were chosen. And that word, chosen, will follow you, stain you, redefine you. The villagers will remember it as an honor. Your mother will tell herself you're going to the palace to be educated. Your father will drink harder, curse the stars, and pretend he had no choice. But you will learn the truth. Slowly, through whispers in dark corridors, through blood drawn in silence, through the cold touch of hands that call you beautiful while stripping your name from your skin. This was not a one-time crime. This was a system, an enterprise, a legacy, one that spanned continents and centuries. From the Ottoman harems to the Chinese Forbidden City, from Byzantine courts to private Roman villas, beauty was a currency, and boys like you were the coin. You will learn that they came for the symmetry of your face, the softness of your hands, the pitch of your voice. You will learn that there were checklists, that your teeth were inspected, your gait recorded, your eyes compared to autumn water. You will learn that men who once stood where you stand now became examiners themselves, because surviving long enough turns victims into tools. There is no training for this, no preparation. You are not taught how to forget your name, how to fold your voice into music, how to smile without thought. These things will be beaten into you with perfume and protocol. You will not die, not at first. That would be too easy. You will survive, and your survival will be curated, molded, displayed. And some will call it privilege. They will see your silks, your cosmetics, your access to courts and emperors, and they will call you lucky. But every night, when the palace grows quiet and the last laughter fades down marble halls, you will feel it. That echo, that void, that silence that asks, what part of me is still mine? Because beauty does not belong to you anymore. It belongs to them. And the most beautiful boys of history were never celebrated for their lives, but for how well they were used before being forgotten. And now, centuries later, we speak of their kingdoms, their emperors, their empires, but not their names, not their stories. Until now, Part 1, The Curse of Beauty. Beauty was supposed to be a gift. That's what they told you again and again from the moment you were old enough to be noticed. Villagers praised you in that half-jealous, half-reverent tone adults reserve for things they don't quite understand but can't look away from. The boy's got a face like a painting, they'd say, like an angel wandered down the wrong path. You didn't know what they meant. You were a child, chasing chickens barefoot, wiping mud on your tunic, laughing too loud in the fields. But even then, you began to feel it. That tilt in the way people looked at you. Not love, not admiration. Something else. Like you were a rare object they had no use for, but still couldn't stop admiring. Like you were meant for somewhere else. And deep down, a part of you started to believe it. When the strangers arrived in your village, draped in brocade, their faces shadowed beneath ornate headdresses, you thought they were holy men. That maybe they had come to bless the harvest, or speak with the elders. Instead, they called for the children. Boys, specifically. No one questioned them. In your world, questioning power was a fast route to ruin. And these men had power. You could see it in how the local chief bowed, how your parents averted their eyes. One by one, they inspected the boys. They carried no weapons, but their eyes sliced sharper than any blade. They looked at hands, teeth, skin, posture. They spoke little. Mostly they observed, coldly, quietly, efficiently. And when their gaze fell on you, something in their expression shifted. Just a flicker, but enough. That night you heard the whispers, your name spoken like a prize someone had accidentally won. Your mother wept behind closed doors. Your father stayed silent, sharpening his old knife, though there was nothing left to hunt. You didn't understand. Not fully, but in the morning your belongings were packed. Just a cloth bundle, a few copper coins, and a promise. You'll live better than all of us. They never said, you'll live free. The cart they loaded you onto smelled like spice and sweat, and something metallic. Inside, other boys huddled, some younger, some older, none speaking. Some had eyes full of fear, others wore a glassy numbness you'd come to understand too well. One boy, about your age, had a fresh scar on his lip. He didn't cry, he just stared at the floor as if hoping it would open and swallow him. You watched the village disappear behind you, roofs shrinking, familiar hills fading into blue. You felt the loss in your chest like a snapped bone. Not just the loss of home, but the loss of a story. Whatever tale your life might have been, it ended in that cart. The road to the city was long. Days blurred into nights, marked only by the sound of wheels and hooves and the occasional low command. You were not spoken to unless being fed, examined, or moved. Your body became a thing to be cleaned, clothed, checked. You began to forget the sound of your own voice. You learned silence quickly. And when you arrived at the gates of a city that shimmered with domes and marble and a grandeur you'd only heard of in bedtime stories, you understood that your life had become a product, a transaction. You weren't there to belong. You were there to be processed. No one cared about your memories. No one asked what made you laugh or what frightened you most. They didn't want your truth. They wanted your symmetry. The curse of beauty, you realized, isn't just that it makes people want you. It's that it convinces them they own you. You'd see it in the way handlers looked at you, comparing your features to sketches, your measurements to scrolls. You'd hear it in how they talked about you as if you weren't there. He'll do well in the Eastern Court. Train the voice, he's got potential. Keep him away from the others, that one bruises too easily. Your name was stripped from you. In its place, a number, a title, a category. Some boys were marked for performance, others for companionship, others for more intimate roles. You didn't ask questions. Questions got boys punished, or worse, removed. At night, in the quiet of the holding chambers, you started to wonder if the other boys could remember who they had been. Their laughter, their brothers' names, the scent of their mother's cooking. You tried to remember too, but the further you reached, the more your memories frayed, like old rope soaked in water. That's the trick, isn't it? Not just taking someone's body, but dismantling their self, piece by piece, until the reflection in the polished silver no longer belongs to a person, but to a product. They don't tell you that in history books. They speak of empires, of culture, of art, of divine palaces and enlightened courts. But they never mention the boys, the ones whose bodies were made into ornaments, whose smiles were practiced until they no longer knew which one was real, whose beauty wasn't admired, it was harvested. And you, whatever your name was before, they'll say you were fortunate, that you were chosen. But in your bones, you will know the truth. You weren't chosen because you were lucky. You were chosen because you were valuable. And value in this world was never about your soul. It was about what could be taken from your face before it aged. Part 2. The Selection, Mikhail's Trial. Mikhail was 13 when the strangers arrived, just old enough to understand that something was wrong, but too young to name it. His village lay in the shadow of the mountains, a forgotten patch of land stitched together by wheat fields, smoke-grey cottages, and the slow, stubborn rhythm of survival. His life until that morning had been quiet. Chores at dawn, cold river baths, long days helping his mother bake flatbread or his uncle mend fishing nets. Sometimes, after supper, he'd climb the fig tree behind the barn and hum songs with no words, watching the sun collapse behind the hills like a flame dying in water. People often said he was too pretty for a boy. Not handsome. Pretty, a word spoken with nervous amusement, sometimes affection, more often unease. The women praised his lashes, his soft mouth, the way his brown hair curled at the edges when he worked up a sweat. Old men clucked their tongues. "That boy has a face the world will steal," one muttered once. Mikhail didn't understand then, he does now. They came at sunrise. Not raiders, not soldiers. Worse, officials. Their robes shimmered in the golden light like beetle shells, stiff and expensive. Their boots were spotless despite the mud. Their leader didn't speak much. He didn't need to. A gesture here, a look there, orders rolled out like silk. The villagers lined up the boys, cleaned and quieted, presented like livestock for feast day inspection. Mikhail stood between his cousin and his neighbor's son. His heart was pounding so loud he was sure they could hear it. He didn't dare move. He barely breathed. The man they called the Sububashi approached. He was tall, angular, with fingers like polished bone. His eyes never lingered, just skimmed, assessed, dismissed. He moved like a man picking grapes at the peak of ripeness, practiced in choosing what would fetch the best price at market. Then his gaze landed on Mikhail. He stopped. A silence fell, dense, electric. Mikhail felt it coil around his ribs like a rope pulled tight. The man stepped forward, raised a hand, gripped Mikhail's chin. "Look up," he said. His voice was rough and oddly accented. Mikhail obeyed. The fingers on his face were dry and cold. The man tilted his head, turned it slightly to the right, then the left, letting the morning light strike his features. He murmured, "symmetrical." He called over a scribe. The examination began. He inspected Mikhail's teeth first, pressing his lips apart, counting each tooth, noting the shape, the alignment. Mikhail fought the urge to gag. The man nodded with satisfaction. No decay, white, rare. Then came the hair, parted, pulled, searched for lice. The scalp was checked for scars, discoloration, patches. Mikhail winced as fingers tugged at his roots. "Good thickness," the man said, "shiny. Takes oil." Mikhail's shirt was removed next. His mother gasped, stepping forward before a guard shoved her back with a grunt. She stumbled, then froze, covering her mouth as tears streamed silently down her cheeks. Mikhail burned with shame, not because of the nudity, but because of how thoroughly he was being unmade. Every inch of him was evaluated. His chest, his back, his shoulders. The selector traced the contours of his ribs, the line of his collarbone, the curve of his hips. He pressed lightly against his abdomen, checking for muscle tone and posture. He circled a small mole near Mikhail's left shoulder, then nodded. Small enough to cover. "Walk," he ordered. Mikhail walked. "Turn again." He walked again, this time aware of the way his limbs moved, how his spine arched, how his feet met the earth. The man watched like an artist studying clay. "Natural grace," he muttered. "Trainable." He asked Mikhail to sing. Mikhail hesitated. "Sing," the man repeated. His voice trembled at first, barely a whisper, then steadied. A folk melody, old and sad. The kind passed down from grandmother to granddaughter until someone forgot the lyrics and only the tune survived. The selector listened with closed eyes, then opened them slowly. Pleasant tone, clear pitch, not too deep. This one will do. The scribe marked something on the parchment. Mikhail wanted to run, to scream, to pull his shirt back on and disappear into the forest. But he stood still, because he could feel it already, his life being written over by strangers in ink thicker than blood. The final command was quiet. "Name?" He opened his mouth to say it, but the man cut him off. "No, not anymore." Mikhail blinked. From now on, you'll answer to whatever name we give you. Forget the old one. It serves no purpose where you're going." And just like that, it was gone. Not the sound of his name, but the ownership of it. The trial ended not with applause, but with silence. The Sububashi turned, nodded once, and moved on. Another boy, another face, another set of measurements. Mikhail stood there, shirtless, breathless, no longer belonging to anyone except the man who hadn't even bothered to learn his name. He was loaded onto a wagon that afternoon. No goodbye from his father. His mother fainted. He wasn't allowed to look back. As the cart rolled forward, leaving his village behind, Mikhail clutched the only thing he had left. The knowledge that once, for a brief moment, he had belonged only to himself. And now? Now he belonged to the Empire. Part 3. The Chamber of Examination. Ahmad's fate. The walls are wet with memory. Not with water. Not even with sweat. But with something older. Older than language. Older than resistance. The chamber beneath the imperial palace smells of incense and iron. A mix meant to calm the nerves and cauterize the soul. It doesn't work. Ahmad stands at the center of the room, naked, trembling, silent. He is 14, but no one in the room sees a boy. They see a prospect. Around him, other boys stand in lines like broken statues, arms at their sides, eyes lowered to avoid catching attention that might cut too deep. A single command, next, and one of them steps forward. A breath, a step, a sacrifice. The examiner enters without ceremony. He is not dressed like a torturer. His silk robe gleams like sunlit oil. His voice is soft, almost bored. But the silence that follows him is total. It clings to the walls, thick with the weight of authority. His hands, though well manicured, are not soft. Not really. There's something beneath the surface. Rigidity, calculation, cold routine. He's done this too many times. He gestures. "You?" Ahmad steps forward. His heart wants to flee. His legs obey. There is no introduction, no name exchanged, no prayer. The examination begins. The examiner starts with Ahmad's hair. He pulls strands between his fingers, evaluating texture, thickness, root strength. He tugs sharply once. No break. A nod. Acceptable. A scribe in the corner writes in silence. Then comes the face. The man tilts Ahmad's head under a lantern, rotating it left, then right, then center again. He takes out a small set of metal calipers and measures the distance between his eyes, the angle of his cheekbones, the slope of his jawline. Turn toward the light, stop again. Ahmad obeys. Symmetrical, prominent lashes, slight asymmetry on the lower lip. Note for cosmetic correction. The scribe doesn't look up. Open your mouth. Ahmad hesitates, a mistake. A slap, sharp and calculated, not to hurt, just to remind. Open. He does. The examiner inserts a thin metal probe between Ahmad's teeth, lifting his upper lip, inspecting gums, counting molars. The smell of iron, oil, and shame thickens in the air. Teeth white. Slight enamel weakness on the rear left molar. Monitor. His hands move with precision. This isn't inspection, it's inventory. The examiner steps back and gestures. Ahmad's voice is next. Speak. Ahmad doesn't know what to say. Say your name. My name is... Not anymore, the examiner interrupts. Say anything else. He swallows. The sun rose early today. The man listens, eyes half closed, tuning in to vibration, pitch, cadence. Good tone, light tenor, should respond to voice training. Mark for vocal grooming. Then comes the body. The examiner walks slowly around him, like a sculptor analyzing marble. His hands press against muscles, trace along joints, test for flexibility, endurance. He measures the distance between shoulder blades, the width of his hips, the angle of his spine. His fingers press into the curve of the lower back, feeling for fat, scars, tension. He pinches Ahmad's skin on his side, pulls gently, lets go. Good elasticity, no stretch marks, no evidence of hard labor. Light olive tone, versatile, suitable for both Eastern and Western courts. Ahmad closes his eyes. He wants to be anywhere else. But there is no escape, not from the room, not from the body that now no longer belongs to him. The examiner lifts Ahmad's arms, checks the armpits for odor, hair, blemishes. Then the hands. Each finger is measured, bent, stretched. The nails are examined for smoothness, the palms for calluses. He is asked to grip, to pour, to mimic the act of serving tea. Elegant wrists, long fingers, excellent control, trainable for detailed service. Then the feet. Ahmad stands as they are touched, spread, measured. The toes are examined for length, alignment, arch. His legs are lifted and rotated slightly to observe how he balances, how he reacts to sudden contact. Small feet, well formed, no signs of deformity or trauma, appropriate. The oil comes next. A vial is opened, fragrant, musky with a hint of citrus. A drop is applied to his shoulder, then another to his chest. The examiner leans in, inhales. Excellent scent absorption. Skin takes fragrance well. Will hold perfumes through extended ceremony. Note compatibility with saffron rose blend. Then, without warning, the pin. The needle goes into his upper thigh, sharp, sudden, unapologetic. Ahmad flinches. Response with intolerance. Another follows, under the ribs this time. He gasps. The examiner looks up. High pain threshold, suitable for intense grooming, can endure the conditioning without collapse. The final test is the most violating, not because it hurts, but because it is slow, intentional. The examiner moves his hand across Ahmad's chest, across his back, his sides, his stomach. Watching not for damage, but reaction, the flicker of muscles, the rise of goosebumps, the sudden intake of breath. Every twitch is noted, every shiver mapped. This is not care, this is programming. The human soul measured by reflex. The psychological inspection is brief, but devastating. Do you miss your mother? Ahmad hesitates. Yes. Would you like to return to her? Yes. The man smiles. It's not kind. Good, strong bond, useful, loyalty can be redirected. And just like that, Ahmad understands. Even his pain can be used against him. He is told to kneel, to stand, to turn, to speak, to bow. Each command is obeyed, each movement watched, not for beauty, but for potential. The final word comes not from the examiner, but from the scribe. Classification, high value. Training tier, royal concubine. A tag is hung around his neck. Metal, cold, inscribed with a number and a sigil. It rests above his heart like a brand. Ahmad is led away. Behind him, the chamber is already being prepared for the next boy. New parchment, new oil, same procedures, same silence. The system does not pause to mourn. It simply records, catalogues, and continues. Part 4. Life after selection. The palace without mirrors. The palace does not welcome you, it absorbs you. You are not greeted at the gates. No trumpets, no ritual. You enter through the servants' corridors, bare stone tunnels that smell of wax, damp silk, and something else you can't quite name. It is not rot, not exactly. It is the scent of things that have died slowly. Your clothes are taken the moment you arrive, not just your travel rags, but everything from your past. The lucky charm your mother sewed into your sleeve, the river pebble you carried since the day you were taken, a piece of thread from your brother's shirt, all gone. In their place, linen robes, white, simple, uniform, the kind that makes you indistinguishable from the boy beside you. And that is the point. You are not supposed to be different. You are supposed to be replaceable. The training begins the next morning. There are no instructors, only handlers. They do not teach, they shape. You are taught how to walk again, not like a boy, but like a vision. Silent steps, smooth posture, hands folded just so. You are made to balance bowls on your head, to glide across marble without sound, to kneel with grace, to rise without shifting the air around you. Your movement must say, I am beauty incarnate, and I do not belong to myself. There are lessons in voice too. You learn to pitch your words like music, to speak without assertiveness, to answer without hesitation. You are punished not for shouting, but for tone. A wrong inflection can earn you a night without food. A misplaced word, a week of silence. You are bathed in oils until your skin no longer smells like yours. Your nails are buffed, your hair combed into shapes you do not choose. You are painted, powdered, scented. You catch glimpses of yourself in polished trays and silver cups, but not in mirrors. There are none. Mirrors are forbidden. Why? Because mirrors remember. And the palace doesn't want you to remember who you were. You no longer sleep alone. Boys are grouped by classification. Those destined for music sleep with singers, dancers with dancers, concubines with concubines. The rooms are beautiful but cold. built to impress visitors, not to comfort occupants. You lie beside other boys who whisper in the dark, some crying softly, others reciting mantras to keep from unraveling. Sometimes a boy disappears. No one speaks of it. No one asks. Questions are dangerous here. Curiosity is punished. You learn early that silence is not only survival, it is expected. And then come the audiences. The first time you're taken from training and brought before the court, you don't know where to look. The sultan, the emperor, the viziers, the eunuchs. They sit like carved gods on thrones of lacquer and gold. You kneel, your forehead pressed to the floor. You feel their eyes crawl over you. Your heart tries to leap from your chest. It cannot. It is too well trained. They do not speak to you. They speak about you, as if you are a vase or a dog. This one has good posture. Will he sing? Too slender, perhaps, but the eyes are unusual. Keep him for the spring festival, and then you are led away. No explanation, no reaction. You return to your room and try to breathe like a person again. But you're not one, not fully, not anymore. As weeks turn to months, you begin to lose the outline of who you were. Your name is used less and less. You answer to gestures. You move on command. You begin to anticipate needs before they're spoken. You learn the schedule of the royal court, which noble prefers laughter, which eunuch favors cruelty, which guest might touch too long. You begin to understand that beauty here is not stillness, it is performance. You are not loved, you are consumed. And the worst part? There are moments, brief, glittering, poisonous, when you forget to hate it. When someone touches your face and calls you divine. When the court claps after your performance. When a noble gives you a gift, a brooch, a coin, a bracelet. You wear it like an honor. You forget it is a leash. Some boys lean into the illusion. They become stars in this strange constellation of pleasure and politics. They rise. They are favored. They get better rooms, warmer clothes, more attention. But deep down they know. None of it is real. The moment their voice cracks, their skin scars, their face changes, they will be passed down, passed over, or quietly removed. Others break. You hear it in the nighttime sobs, the empty gazes, the bruises that don't come from training. You learn not to ask. You learn not to reach out, because sympathy here is weakness, and weakness is punished. There is a hallway at the end of the east wing, barred at all times. They call it the mirrorless passage. They say that's where the boys go when they're no longer needed. No one returns from it. You dream about that hallway sometimes. You wonder if, beyond its doors, there is something better, or just more silence. More mirrors that show you nothing. More versions of you that you cannot recognize. You wonder if you will ever leave this place. If anyone will remember your real name. If it matters. Because the longer you stay, the more you realize beauty brought you here. But it won't be what saves you. Part 5. Legacy of Silence. The systems that still echo. The empire fell, as all empires do. The palaces crumbled. The golden domes lost their luster. The dynasties dissolved into dust, buried beneath revolutions, colonizations, declarations of human rights. Statues toppled, thrones burned, names rewritten. But the silence remained. History rarely writes about boys like Ahmad, like Mikhail, like the hundreds, thousands, who were selected, reshaped, renamed, and discarded. Their lives were not considered worth recording. Their stories are not found in royal decrees or military chronicles. You find them in the margins, in forgotten ledgers, in the soft spaces between facts, traces of a market that never advertised itself, of a machine that ran on anonymity. The eunuchs who trained them were often survivors of the same system. They became both jailer and ghost, teaching boys how to survive in a world that demanded submission disguised as privilege. The handlers kept meticulous records: height, weight, tone, grace, obedience, pain thresholds. These weren't servants, they were engineers of compliance. And their work, their brutal efficiency, echoes still. Today the palaces are museums. Tourists marvel at the architecture, at the scrollwork on the ceilings, at the luxury of vanished courts. Docents explain the cultural significance of harems and imperial courts with sterile smiles, skipping over what those corridors truly witnessed. The chambers where boys were stripped, bathed, powdered, named and renamed, now polished, sterilized, repainted. The air smells of lemon wax, not blood and perfume. But the systems, They never died. They evolved. They left the palaces and migrated into the modern world, shedding silk robes for suits, tradesmen's tokens for modeling contracts, auctions for auditions. They no longer needed oil lamps or scrolls. They had cameras. They had algorithms. They had beauty standards. The same logic persists. Youth equals value. Symmetry equals desirability. Obedience equals employability. The language has changed, but the criteria remain hauntingly familiar. Today, a boy with perfect skin is more likely to be signed than educated. A child with delicate features is praised for being marketable. Photographers call them natural. Agencies call them fresh. The smile you see on the billboard, it was curated, directed, captured just right. Beneath it may lie a hunger, a silence, a story that mirrors Ahmad's more than anyone dares to admit. And we consume them, endlessly. Every swipe, every like, every viral clip, another digit in a system that converts beauty into currency. We are all investors now, feeding a machine whose origin we pretend not to see. We say the boys today have choice. But how much freedom exists when survival still depends on being wanted? The ghosts of the palace are not gone. They've simply changed outfits. They whisper through casting calls. They linger in agency contracts. They hide behind the glow of ring lights and the polish of influencer culture. The same invisible hands that once chose boys in Balkan villages now scroll through faces on apps, selecting the ones whose cheekbones catch the light just right. And what of the boys themselves? Many don't realize they're walking old roads. They smile, they pose, they learn to move just right, say just enough, stay just quiet enough. Until one day they look in the mirror and wonder, where did I go? Because that's the final echo of the palace, the erasure. It didn't end when the courts collapsed. It continued wherever appearance was power and compliance was profit. We like to believe we're better now, that the world is more just. But justice, real justice, is not silence. It's not forgetting. It's not covering wounds with hashtags and soft documentaries. It's naming the pain. It's remembering the forgotten. It's recognizing that the systems built on the backs of beautiful children didn't vanish. They graduated into institutions, industries, and ideologies. And until we confront that truth, the legacy of silence will continue. Not in oil-lit chambers, but in pixels, in contracts, in compliments that carry barbs, in voices that say, "You're perfect," but mean, "You're mine." The story of Ahmad and Mikhail does not end with freedom. It ends with us. What we choose to see, what we choose to remember, what we allow to repeat.